Welcome back to Alpha Wolf Saga. Before tonight's story begins, we want to take a moment to sincerely thank every one of you who continues to watch, support, comment, and return for each new journey. Whether you have been with us from the very beginning or you have only recently discovered this channel, your presence truly matters. Every story you finish, every kind message you leave, and every quiet evening you choose to spend here helps this world of alpha kings, wounded hearts, loyal wolves, hidden betrayals, and unexpected love continue to grow. Here at Alpha Wolf Saga, we believe the strongest stories are never only about power. They are about compassion, about the people everyone overlooks, about frightened children learning to trust again, about powerful kings discovering that protecting a kingdom means very little if they fail to notice the hearts breaking inside their own home. And sometimes, they're about one ordinary woman whose kindness slowly becomes impossible for an alpha king to ignore. So, wherever you are listening from tonight, make yourself comfortable and stay with us until the end. Because this story begins with three young wolf princes, one quiet test of trust, and an alpha king who is about to learn that love cannot be commanded. The first thing Alora Finch noticed about the quiet wing was not the cold. It was the locks. Two heavy iron locks sat on the outside of the nursery door, dark against the old oak. Alora stopped beneath the faded silver stars painted across the ceiling and stared at them for 1 second too long. Behind her, Alpha King Callanthorne noticed. What? Alora looked at him. Then, at the locks. Then back at him. Nothing. Colin's expression tightened. That did not look like nothing. It looked like a nursery with the locking philosophy of a prison. Captain Lysa made a suspicious sound that might have been a cough. Kalin did not smile. Not quite. Three small wolf princes pressed close to Alora's skirt. Alden stood nearest the door, black fur raised along his shoulders. Milo hovered behind him, still carrying a streak of flour across one ear from the bakery. Little Emmett trembled against Alora's ankle. Then footsteps approached. Royal healer Auric Dane entered, carrying the silver medicine case. Emmett froze. Alden growled. Milo backed beneath Alora's skirt so quickly that he nearly pulled it sideways. Alora caught the fabric. "Your Highness," she whispered. "I am developing concerns about your relationship with clothing." Milo peeked out. For half a heartbeat, Kalin almost laughed. Then Auric opened the case. The sweet metallic scent filled the room. All three pups changed instantly. Emmett began shaking. Alden stepped forward. Kalen's face hardened. "Not tonight." Auric stared at him. "Your Majesty, their treatment cannot simply be interrupted." Kalen looked at his sons. Then at the blue medicine. "I said not tonight." Silence followed. Auric closed the case. Slowly. Alora noticed the healer's hand trembling. She noticed. Kalen noticed too. That mattered. An hour later, the nursery smelled different. Warm broth, fresh bread. Apples simmered with cinnamon near the fire. Alora had refused every elaborate royal dish offered by the kitchen. "They need food," she had said. "Not a parade wearing gravy." Kalin had watched her prepare everything herself. She tasted each bowl first. Only then did she place them on the floor. Milo approached immediately. Emmett waited. Alden waited longer. Only after both younger pups had eaten did the black wolf take the smallest portion. Colin saw it. Pain moved quietly across his face. Alora pretended not to notice. Some wounds deserved privacy. Then Alden did something strange. He picked up a piece of bread, carried it to the open doorway, and dropped it outside. Alora frowned. Alden returned to the fireplace. He did not eat. He watched the corridor. Minutes passed. A young guard appeared. He saw the bread, stopped, looked into the nursery, then turned around and hurried away. Not toward Kalin, toward the healer's corridor. Alora looked at Alden. The pup did not seem surprised. He had expected it. Her stomach tightened. Alden rose again. This time he carried a wooden spoon to the doorway, placed it outside, returned, waited. Kalin stepped closer. "What is he doing?" Alora's eyes stayed on Alden. "I think he's testing them." Kalin looked at her. "Testing who?" Another guard appeared. He saw the spoon. His face changed. Then he turned toward the eastern stairs. Alden growled. Not fear. Recognition. Alora slowly stood. He's not trying to escape the palace. Her voice dropped. He's trying to find out who inside it he can trust. Callan stared at the spoon lying outside the nursery door as though it had accused him personally. The second guard had vanished down the eastern stairs. Alden remained beside the fireplace, watching, waiting. Alora slowly folded her arms. He knew where that guard would go. Callan's jaw tightened. He is 8. 8-year-olds notice more than adults like to admit. He should not have needed to notice this. That silenced her. For the first time since they entered the quiet wing, Callan did not sound like a king. He sounded like a father discovering how much had happened while he was looking elsewhere. He stepped toward Alden. Alden. The black pup rose immediately. His body shifted between Callan and his younger brothers. Milo stopped chewing. Emmett pressed closer to Alora. Callan's face changed. Only slightly. But Alora saw it. Pain. Not anger. Alden, he repeated more softly. Come here. The pup did not move. Colleen took another step. Alden growled. The sound was low, frightened, stubborn. Something powerful stirred beneath Callan's skin. Not rage. Instinct. The instinct of an alpha used to being obeyed. His voice deepened. Alden. Alora turned sharply. Don't. Captain Lysa looked at her as though she had just volunteered to fight a mountain. Colin slowly faced Alora. Excuse me? Her courage immediately reconsidered its career choices. Still, she stayed where she was. If you command him now, you'll get obedience. Kalen's eyes narrowed. And? You're trying to get trust. The room went very quiet. Alora swallowed. Those are not the same thing. Kalen looked back at his son. Alden's claws were pressed into the floor. The child was ready to obey. That was somehow worse. Kalen's shoulders lowered. What would you have me do? Alora blinked. She had not expected the Alpha King to actually ask. Nothing. His expression became deeply unimpressed. Nothing. Yes. I crossed 3 provinces looking for my sons. I know. I found them hiding behind your skirt. I noticed. And your advice is to do nothing? Alora glanced at Alden. Sit down. Captain Lysa looked away very quickly. Callan stared at Alora. You want the Alpha King of Blackpine to sit on the nursery floor. There are cushions. That was not my concern. Milo made a tiny sound suspiciously close to laughter. Callan heard it. His eyes moved toward the gray pup. Milo immediately became fascinated by his empty bowl. Alora bit the inside of her cheek. Slowly, with the dignity of a man surrendering to an enemy army, Callan sat. The floor creaked beneath him. He did not call Alden again. He did not reach forward. He simply waited. Minutes passed. The fire crackled softly. Emmett climbed into Alora's lap. Milo eventually curled beside her boot. Alden remained standing, watching his father. Then he moved. Not toward Callan. Toward the small table beside the wall. A silver key rested there, the key to the quiet wing. Alden picked it up between his teeth. Callan's expression sharpened. The pup crossed the room. Slowly, he stopped several feet from his father, then dropped the key. It struck the stone between them. Callan looked at it. Alora stopped breathing. Alden stepped backward. Waiting. Callan reached down. The instant his fingers closed around the key, Alden's body stiffened. Callan noticed. His gaze moved toward the door, toward the 2 iron locks on the outside. Something dark passed through his expression. He finally understood. The key was not an object. It was a question. Would he lock them in again? Callan turned the silver key once between his fingers, then leaned forward. He placed it back on the floor and pushed it toward Alden. You keep it. Alden stared. Callan did not smile, did not command. Your door should never need my permission to open. For several long seconds, the pup did nothing. Then he stepped forward, took the key, and carried it back to his brothers. Callan lowered his eyes. Alora watched his hand tighten against his knee. He had won battles with thousands watching. Yet this tiny victory nearly broke him. That night, Emmett woke screaming. His small body shifted violently beneath the blankets. Alora moved first, then stopped. Alden had already turned toward Kaelin. The king remained near the fireplace. He did not rise. He waited. Alden looked at Emmett, then at his father. Finally, the black pup stepped aside. Only one step. But it was enough. Kaelin crossed the room slowly. He knelt beside his youngest son. Emmett stared at him through tear-filled eyes. Kaelin opened his arms. The child hesitated, then collapsed against his chest. Kaelin closed his eyes. His hand shook once against Emmett's back. Alora quietly turned toward the fire. Some moments were too fragile to watch directly. Then Emmett whispered into his father's cloak. "Green gloves said you would learn." Kaelin froze. Across the room, Alora slowly lifted her head. Captain Lysa stopped breathing. Everyone in Black Pine Keep knew one man who always wore dark green gloves. First Counselor Garen Vale. By sunrise, Captain Lysa had 3 guard rosters spread across the nursery floor. Alora sat near the fire with a blanket over her shoulders and Emmett asleep against her side. Milo had somehow acquired a spoon and was using it to push a wooden wolf across the rug. Alden watched everyone, especially the door. Kaelin stood over the records. Again, Lysa traced one line with her finger. Every time the Quiet Wing received a new guard rotation, there was an incident within 48 hours. Kaelin looked up. Escape attempts? That is what the reports called them. Alora glanced toward Alden. What actually happened? Lysa pulled another page closer. First incident. Laundry corridor. Distance? 30 yards. Second? Kitchen stairs. Third? Old Orchard Landing. Kaelin frowned. None of those are exits. No. Alora looked at Alden. The black pup's ears shifted. She understood before Cullen did. He wasn't running away. Kaelin turned. He was checking them. Lysa nodded slowly. That is what it looks like. Alora adjusted the blanket around Emmett. The little boy murmured in his sleep and tucked his face against her arm. Kaelin noticed. His eyes softened, then immediately moved back to the reports, as though he had been caught looking at something dangerous. Alora pretended not to see that too. She was becoming very skilled at pretending not to see things. Unfortunately, Kaelin was becoming equally skilled at noticing when she pretended. You are smiling. I am not. You are. I am thinking. With your mouth? Milo snorted. Alora pointed at him. Do not encourage your father. Kaelin's eyebrow lifted. My father? She froze. Milo froze. Even Lysa looked interested. Alora cleared her throat. Their father. Kaelin's mouth moved. Barely. Still, it was enough to make warmth creep into Alora's face. She became intensely interested in the guard roster. Here, she said quickly. Lysa followed her finger. Several names appeared more than once. Different shifts, different weeks, same men. Each incident involving restraints or forced medicine happened under one of those names. Callan's expression hardened. Why were the same guards reassigned after complaints? Lysa's face changed. They were not reassigned by the nursery captain. Who approved them? She turned the page. No answer appeared there. Instead, she found a small black mark beside each name. A stitched crescent. Alora leaned closer. I've seen that. Both of them looked at her. Where? On uniforms. Lysa frowned. Royal guards wear silver thread. Yes, but not all of them. Alora reached toward the door. The young guard who had carried the spoon away earlier still stood outside under questioning. There, near the inside of his cuff, was a line of black stitching. Almost invisible. Alora had noticed it because bakers notice flour, cooks notice knives, and women who spent years repairing their own clothes notice thread. Lysa pulled the guard forward. Show me your sleeve. He hesitated. That was enough. She turned the cuff inside out. A black crescent had been stitched beneath the royal seam. Kaelin's voice became very quiet. What is that? The guard swallowed. Inner Watch Reserve. Your Majesty. Silence. Alora looked at Lysa. Lysa looked at Kaelin. The Inner Watch was not responsible for nurseries. It guarded restricted royal corridors, council access points, sealed archives, and emergency routes. Kaelin's face went still. Who commands the reserve? Lysa did not answer immediately. She did not need to. Everyone in Blackpine knew the name. Lord Severin Mar, Master of the Inner Watch. A man who had served Kaelin's father. A man who had saved Kaelin's life during the Red Winter War. A man Kaelin trusted enough to control the keys to half the palace. Alden suddenly growled. Not at the guard. At the roster. Alora looked down. One name had been circled 3 times. Garen Vale. Colleen saw it. The room changed. His eyes lifted slowly. Why is Garen on an Inner Watch rotation? Lysa's voice dropped. He should not be. Alden walked toward the papers. He pressed one paw directly over Garen's name, then looked at Callan. And for the first time, the king realized his son had not been trying to escape danger. He had been keeping track of it. Garen Vale arrived in the quiet wing just after noon. He wore the same dark green gloves. Alden noticed them before anyone else. The black pup rose from beside the fire and moved in front of Milo and Emmett. Not growling. Not yet. Just watching. Garen stopped 3 steps inside the door. His eyes went first to the children, then to Callan, then, unexpectedly, to Alora. You found the pattern. It was not a question. Cullen's face hardened. Take off the gloves. Garen went still. Captain Lysa shifted near the wall. Alora stayed beside the pups. For several seconds, Garen did nothing. Then he slowly pulled off the right glove. Silver scars crossed his palm. Old ones. Deep ones. He removed the left. More scars. Colleen stared. What happened to your hands? Garen gave a tired smile. Something I should have told you months ago. Alden's ears lowered slightly. That was all. But Alora sighed. So did Colin. You knew about the Eastern Flower Passage, Kaelin said. You knew which guards were near my sons. You appeared on an Inner Watch rotation you had no authority to join. Garen looked at the floor. I joined it because I needed to know who was being assigned here. Why? Because your children were frightened of the wrong men. Kaelin stepped closer. And you said nothing. I said plenty. His voice stayed calm. That made the answer worse. I sent 3 sealed reports to the border. Kaelin's eyes narrowed. I received none. I know. The room became colder. Garen looked toward Alden. The first time I saw him outside the quiet wing, he was hiding behind a laundry cart. Alora glanced at the pup. Alden did not look away. He should have run when he saw me, Garen continued. Instead, he watched the guard behind me. What guard? Inner Watch. Kaelin's jaw tightened. The man reached for Alden. Alden bit him. Milo looked impressed. Alora whispered. Naturally. Kaelin gave her a brief look. She lifted one shoulder. He does have standards. For the smallest moment, tension loosened. Then Garen continued. The guard called him unstable. I called him frightened. Alora's expression softened. Garen looked at her. I think that is why he remembered me. What about the flower passage? Callan asked. I showed it to him. Silence. Lysa straightened. You helped the princes escape? No. Garen's voice sharpened. I gave an 8-year-old child one corridor where the Inner Watch did not have keys. Callan moved so quickly that Alora nearly stepped between them. Do you hear yourself? Yes. Garen finally looked angry. I hear myself every night. Callan stopped inches away. You taught my son to hide from my guards. I taught him which guards not to trust. You should have come to me. I tried. You should have tried harder. That landed. Garen's face changed. Not fear. Weariness. I tried to reach the king. Callan froze. Garen's next words came quietly. But the father was never home. No one moved. Even Milo stopped playing. Alora watched Callan absorb the blow. He could have shouted. He could have thrown Garen into the cells. Instead, he looked toward his sons. Alden was still standing between his brothers and every adult in the room. Callan seemed to understand the accusation because it was standing right in front of him. Garen exhaled. I warned Auric. Callan looked back. What did he say? That the children's fear was part of the illness. And you believed him? For 2 days. What changed? A maid named Tessa. Lysa frowned. I know that name. She worked the night trays. Garen nodded. She told me some guards were deliberately entering after the medicine had been given. They would make sudden movements, rattle silver, lock the doors twice. Allura felt sick. To make the pups react. Yes. And then call the reaction proof. Garen nodded again. Callan's hands curled at his sides. Where is Tessa? Garen did not answer. He did not need to. Lysa's face had already gone grim. Dismissed 6 weeks ago, she said. No forwarding record. Callan turned back to Garen. Why did you not tell me this when I returned? Because I did not know who was still listening. He looked toward the door. Then toward the ceiling. Then back to Callan. And because Severin changes guard rotations whenever he believes someone is getting too close. Lysa's eyes narrowed. When is the next rotation? Garen slowly looked toward the window. Boots began echoing in the corridor. Many of them. Alden rose instantly. Garen whispered. No. The nursery doors opened. 6 unfamiliar guards stood outside. And every one of them wore black thread beneath the silver cuffs. The 6 new guards did not enter the nursery. They did not need to. The moment Alden saw the black thread beneath their cuffs, his entire body changed. His shoulders stiffened. His ears flattened. Milo stopped moving. Emmett climbed into Alora's lap so quickly that his little claws caught in her skirt. Alora winced. Sweetheart, I support the emergency evacuation. I would simply prefer to keep the dress. Emmett did not let go. Callan stepped toward the doorway. Every guard bowed. Your Majesty. Too smooth. Too calm. As though nothing about 6 unfamiliar men, appearing outside his children's locked nursery, required explanation. Who ordered this rotation? Callan asked. The captain lowered his head. Master Mar, Your Majesty. Standard security adjustment. Garen gave a humorless breath. Standard. Callan looked ready to order all 6 men arrested. Alora touched his sleeve. Very lightly. The contact stopped him faster than a command would have. His eyes dropped to her hand. For 1 second, neither of them moved. Alora realized what she had done and slowly pulled away. I wouldn't remove them yet. Cullen's gaze remained on her a moment longer than necessary. Why? Because Alden is watching. They both looked toward the black pup. He was. Not only the guards. His father. Cullen understood. If he exploded every time Alden showed fear, the child would never know whether the danger had truly passed or simply changed uniforms. What do you suggest? Callan asked. Alora considered. Let him choose what happens next. Garen frowned. He is 8. Yes. And frightened. Yes. Those are excellent reasons not to make him responsible for palace security. Alora looked at him. I'm not asking him to run the kingdom. She glanced toward Alden. I'm asking where he wants breakfast. Milo's ears lifted. Callan stared at her. Breakfast. People make surprisingly important decisions around bread. You would know. Alora narrowed her eyes. Was that a comment about my profession or my criminal history? A faint amusement appeared in his face. Whichever irritates you less. Then definitely the profession. Lysa coughed into her fist. Garen looked as though the monarchy had deteriorated considerably in the last 30 seconds. Alora placed 3 small wooden tokens on the floor. One had a carved loaf for the kitchen. One showed a tree for the garden. The last carried a star for the quiet wing. She pushed them toward Alden. You choose. Alden sniffed each one. Then placed one paw over the loaf. The kitchen. Callan nodded. No restraints. No medicine. No one touches them unless they allow it. The new captain opened his mouth. Callan looked at him once. He reconsidered. The walk to the kitchen was almost peaceful. Almost. Milo discovered that palace banners were excellent objects to brush one's tail against. Emmett insisted on holding the corner of Alora's apron. Alden walked 3 steps ahead, stopping at every intersection. Colleen followed several feet behind. Not close enough to crowd them. Close enough to catch Emmett when the little boy tripped over absolutely nothing. Colin lifted him automatically. Emmett blinked. For one heartbeat, old fear appeared. Kaylin immediately began lowering him. But Emmett wrapped both arms around his neck. Kaylin stopped. Alora saw the surprise in his face. Then the softness. He carried the child the rest of the hallway without mentioning it. In the royal kitchen, Alora put everyone to work. Even Colin. He stared at the bowl she handed him. What am I supposed to do with this? Hold it. I command armies. Wonderful. The flower should be terrified. Milo laughed so hard he fell against a sack. Kaylin gave Alora a long look. It should have warned her. Instead, it made her strangely warm. You enjoy this, he said. Immensely. She turned toward the dough before he could notice the smile she was trying to hide. A few minutes later, a guard appeared in the doorway. Young, unfamiliar, black thread beneath his cuff. Alden saw him immediately. The guard did not bow to the princes. He simply looked at the eldest. Alden. The pup went still. Alora's smile disappeared. The guard raised 2 fingers. Nothing dramatic. Just a small gesture near his chest. Alden froze. Milo dropped his bread. Emmett whimpered. Alora stepped in front of them. Don't do that again. The guard's expression hardened. Move. No. Kaylin appeared behind her. The room seemed to shrink around him. But he did not shout. He looked at Alden. The child was watching him, waiting for the command. Kaylin understood the test. You may stay, he said quietly. Alden's ears lifted. No one is taking you anywhere. The pup backed toward Alora, then toward his brothers. The guard went pale. Lysa seized him before he reached the corridor. She searched his coat. No weapon. No poison. No secret letter. Only a folded sheet of paper. Lysa opened it. Her face changed. Kaylin took the page. 12 names were written there. All children. Not only his sons. Children of generals. Council families. Border lords. Alora looked at the list. What is this? The guard said nothing. Kaylin's eyes became cold. Alden walked forward. He sniffed the paper, then pressed one paw against the final name. A girl of Alaven. Kaylin knew her father. A council lord who had abruptly changed his vote 3 months earlier. Alora looked at Colin. His expression told her he understood before she did. This had never been only about 3 frightened princes. Someone had been testing children all across Blackpine, and using what frightened them to control the adults who loved them. The 12 names stayed on the kitchen table long after the bread went cold. Kaylin read them twice. Then a 3rd time. Alora watched his expression change with each one. Lord Halden's daughter. General Voss's youngest son. 2 children from the northern border houses. A councilman's twins. Families with nothing obvious in common. At first. Then Captain Lysa brought the voting records. That was when the pattern appeared. 3 months after Lord Halden's daughter had been removed from the palace for violent adjustment problems, her father had changed his vote on border taxation. General Voss had opposed expanding the Inner Watch for years. Then his son spent 6 weeks inside Blackpine Keep. Afterward, Voss supported the expansion. Again. And again. Children were sent home frightened. Parents changed positions. Severin gained power. Alora felt cold despite the warm ovens. He didn't threaten the parents. Kaylin looked at her. No. He frightened their children. Lysa's face hardened. And let the parents imagine what might happen if they stopped cooperating. Milo sat nearby tearing a dinner roll into pieces far too small to be useful. Alora reached over. You are murdering that bread. He looked innocent. It was already dead. Alora stared at him. Kalin's mouth twitched. She pointed toward the king. You see what happens when children spend too much time around powerful men. Milo grinned. For one soft second, the room became almost normal. Then, Emmett climbed into Kalin's lap. Not Alora's. Kalin froze. The little boy leaned against his chest, as though he had been doing it forever. Kalin looked down at him. Something in his face softened so completely that Alora had to look away. She suddenly understood how dangerous hope could be. Not kingdom-changing hope. Smaller. Quieter. The kind that made her imagine this tired man sitting in her bakery while 3 badly behaved princes stole cooling pies from the window. That thought was inappropriate. She focused very seriously on the murder of the bread. Alden remained near the door. Still watching. Always watching. Kalin noticed too. He rested one hand lightly on Emmett's back. Lysa. Yes, Your Majesty? Bring Auric. Alora looked at him. Kalin's voice stayed calm. No chains. No public arrest. Lysa nodded. You want him frightened enough to talk? No. Kalin glanced at Alden. I want him given a choice. Alora's eyes met his. He had listened. Not only to her words. To the lesson beneath them. Something warm moved through her chest. Annoyingly warm. Auric arrived 20 minutes later. His face was gray. He saw the list. Then stopped breathing. Kalin did not raise his voice. Do you recognize these names? No. Too fast. Alora noticed. So did Kalin. He placed one finger on the 9th name. Elise Dane. Auric's daughter. The healer's knees nearly failed him. Alora's anger changed. Not disappeared. Changed. You knew, Kalin said. Auric closed his eyes. Not at first. Alden growled softly. Auric flinched. Kalin's gaze sharpened. When? After Elise. The confession came out broken. Years earlier, Auric's daughter had attacked another child during her first shift. Severin had hidden the incident. Protected the family. Auric had believed it was mercy. It became a debt. Then came requests. Altered reports. Extra sedatives. Behavioral assessments rewritten to make frightened children look unstable. Alora's stomach tightened. And the silver mixture? Auric looked at her. Low doses. That is not an answer. His voice shook. It made shifting harder. Slowed their reactions. Made them tired. Kalin went very still. So, when the guards frightened them, they reacted badly. And you called that illness. Auric looked down. Yes. Silence filled the kitchen. Alora wanted to hate him cleanly. It would have been easier. But he looked like a man who had spent years walking deeper into a cowardly decision and no longer remembered where the first step had been. Kalin stood. You harmed my sons. Auric's eyes filled. Yes. You helped harm other children. Yes. Yes. You will answer for that. Auric nodded. No excuses. Then he looked toward the door. Fear entered his face. You still do not understand Severin. Kalin's expression hardened. Then explain him. Auric swallowed. He does not want your throne. Lysa frowned. Every traitor wants power. He already has it. Auric looked directly at Kalin. A king rules by command. His voice dropped. Severin rules by making everyone believe they cannot function without him. Kalin said nothing. Auric continued. He does not need to wear the crown. A long silence. He only needs every king who wears it to need him. At that exact moment, a bell rang somewhere deep inside the palace. Once. Then twice. Alden lifted his head. Garin went pale. Kalin looked toward him. What is that? Garin whispered. Inner watch for call. Lysa reached for her sword. Alora looked toward the doorway. Outside, boots began moving through Blackpine Keep. Not toward the gates. Toward the royal wing. Severin had finally realized someone was pulling at his web. By morning, Blackpine Keep had changed. Not visibly. The towers still stood beneath the gray sky. Guards still crossed the courtyards. Servants still carried trays through stone corridors. But the rhythm was different. People were listening now. Watching, wondering who had been loyal because they believed in the king, and who had simply learned how to survive inside Severin Mars' system. Kalin could have summoned the council. He could have ordered arrests. Instead, he stayed in the quiet wing. Alora noticed that first. He sat at the small breakfast table, wearing a black shirt instead of royal armor, while Emmett leaned sleepily against his arm and Milo attempted to balance 3 pieces of toast on his head. Alden remained near the window, watching, always watching. Alora placed a bowl of oatmeal in front of Kalen. He looked at it, then at her. What is this? Breakfast. I can see that. Wonderful. We're making progress. Kalen lowered his voice. It appears gray. Oatmeal often suffers from a lack of ambition. Milo laughed. The toast fell from his head. 1 piece landed directly in Kalen's bowl. Everyone froze. Milo's eyes widened. Alora pressed her lips together. Kalen looked slowly at the floating toast, then at his son. Milo whispered, "It slipped." "Did it?" "Yes." Alora looked away. Kalen caught her. "You are smiling again." "No. You are." "I am deeply concerned for the toast." He stared at her. A pause. Then, very quietly, Colleen laughed. Not the almost smile Alora had seen before. A real laugh. Low. Unexpected. It changed his whole face. Alora forgot what she was holding. The spoon slipped from her fingers and clattered against the table. Now Kalen looked amused. "Careful. I'm fine." "You dropped the spoon." "It betrayed me." His eyes stayed on hers. "Objects seem to do that around you." Her cheeks warmed. She turned away. This was becoming inconvenient. Behind her, Captain Lysa entered. She stopped, looked at Kalen, looked at Alora, then at the spoon. "I see the kingdom remains stable." "Barely," Alora muttered. Lysa handed Colin a sealed report. "Inner watch movements have slowed. Severin has not left his quarters." Colin's expression hardened again. "Too quiet." "Yes." Alora watched the shift. The warmth left him so quickly it hurt more than she expected. For a moment, she saw the man Blackpine feared. Then Emmett tugged Kalen's sleeve. "Papa." Kalen looked down. Emmett held out a piece of apple. Kalen accepted it. The king disappeared again. Only the father remained. Alora lowered her eyes. That was somehow worse for her heart. Later, Kalen tried helping Emmett dress. It did not go well. The child had one arm inside the wrong sleeve, half his shirt twisted backward, and absolutely no interest in cooperating. Colin frowned at the garment, as though it had personally challenged his authority. This was designed poorly. Alora leaned against the doorway. "Of course. It is. Definitely the shirt." He looked at her. "You would like to assist. I would like to observe." "That sounds unhelpful." "It is extremely helpful to me." Emmett giggled. Kalen hid. "Traitor." The little boy smiled and finally lifted both arms. Kalen fixed the shirt. "Badly." Alora stepped closer. "May I?" He moved aside. Their hands touched as she adjusted the collar. Only briefly. Still, Kalen went very still. So did she. Alora became suddenly aware of how close he stood. His voice dropped. "You always smell like cinnamon." She blinked. That is a very strange thing to say to someone. "I noticed." "That does not improve it." His mouth curved. Before either of them could say more, Milo ran past carrying something silver. Kalen turned. "My crown." Milo vanished behind a chair. Alora laughed. Kalen stared after him. "How did he get that?" "I believe your security has problems. You are enjoying this far too much." Immensely. For the next few hours, Kalen remained with his sons. No alpha commands. No sharp orders. When Alden refused to sit beside him, Kalen did not insist. When Milo spilled milk, Kalen handed him a cloth. When Emmett grew tired, Kalen carried him. And when Alora stepped out to fetch fresh bread, Kalen's eyes followed her through the doorway. He did not realize it. Lysa did. She said nothing, but her eyebrow rose. Kalen noticed. "Do not." "I said nothing." "You were about to." "I value my position." He looked toward the empty doorway again. Lysa's mouth twitched. Alora returned several minutes later. Kalen's shoulders relaxed before he could stop them. That evening, Alden finally moved. He approached Colin near the fire, carrying something between his teeth. A silver token. The same royal token Kaelin had given Lisa at the bakery. Alden placed it in his father's palm. Colleen looked at him. Is this mine? Alden sat. Alora came closer. There are marks on it. 3 scratches crossed the edge. Not random. Lisa examined them. Her expression changed. I know that mark. Kaelin looked up. Where? Old inner watch doors. Alden stood, walked toward the wall, then turned back. Waiting. Lisa whispered. There are 3 rooms in the palace with that pattern. Kaelin closed his hand around the token. One of them? Lisa hesitated. Behind the throne hall. And this time, Alden was not warning them away. He was showing them where to look next. The hidden door behind the throne did not look important. That was the first thing Alora disliked about it. No iron chains. No royal seal. No warning carved into the stone. Only 3 shallow scratches near the base of the wall. The same marks Alden had carved into Kaelin's silver token. Captain Lisa pressed her palm against the panel. Nothing happened. Kaelin tried next. Still nothing. Alora tilted her head. Perhaps the secret door is offended by authority. Kaelin looked at her. You have been waiting to say that. A little. Lisa crouched near the floor. There's a release mechanism somewhere. Milo, who had been ordered to remain in the corridor, immediately crawled beneath Kaelin's arm. No. Colin caught him around the waist. Milo continued reaching toward the wall. It's there. What is? The wolf. Alora stepped closer. A tiny wooden carving sat almost invisible beneath the throne platform. Milo pressed its nose. The wall clicked. Lisa slowly looked at Kaelin. Colin looked at Milo. Milo smiled proudly. Alora folded her arms. Your Majesty, your security system has just been defeated by a 6-year-old. Colin set his son down. I am beginning to take that personally. The panel opened. Cold air slipped through. A narrow room waited beyond. Alora had expected weapons. Perhaps chains. Something dramatic enough to justify the secret. Instead, she found paper. Hundreds of pages. Shelves covered every wall. Maps. Guard schedules. Servant rotation. Medical records. Council seating plans. Lists of marriages, debts, illnesses, arguments, affairs, pregnancies, dismissals, gambling losses. Small things. Private things. The kind of details people shared only when they believed no one important was listening. Colin stepped inside. His face slowly emptied of expression. Lisa took one ledger from the nearest shelf. General Vos. Another. Lord Halden. Another. Auric Dane. Alora moved toward a narrow desk. A fresh book lay open. The ink had barely dried. She read the first page, then stopped. Her name appeared near the bottom. Alora Fink. Her stomach tightened. Kaelin noticed immediately. What? She did not answer. He crossed the room. The entry was brief. Former royal kitchen worker. Dismissed for theft. Lowborn. No political family connections. Owns bakery outside Eastern Orchard. Trusted by royal heirs. Emotionally protective of children. Potential leverage. Property. Reputation. Food license. Kaelin went completely still. Alora stared at the final line. Potential leverage. Her bakery. The little kitchen where she woke before sunrise. The cracked window she kept promising to repair. The table where Milo had nearly fallen over while stealing pie. Something cold moved through her. Kaelin closed the ledger. Hard. No one touches that bakery. Alora looked at him. Colin. It was the first time she had used his name without title. Neither of them seemed to notice until after it happened. His eyes met hers. Something changed. Small. Warm. Dangerously quiet. I mean it, he said. I know. I'll put guards around it tonight. Alora frowned. Absolutely not. His expression hardened. Alora. 6 royal guards standing outside my bakery will terrify half my customers. They will keep you safe. They will also convince everyone I secretly poison muffins for the crown. Lisa looked down. Her shoulders moved once. Colin saw it. Captain. I said nothing. Alora continued. If you insist on guards, they can dress normally. Colleen stared. And do what? Buy bread. He blinked. You want royal guards to pretend to be customers. I want royal guards to become paying customers. A pause. Then Kalin said, you are negotiating protection into a business opportunity. I have flower bills. His mouth curved. There it was again. That almost smile that made him look less like the feared Alpha King and far too much like a man Alora should not be thinking about before dinner. She looked away first. Unfortunately, Kalin noticed that too. His gaze stayed on her a second longer. Then Lysa cleared her throat. Your Majesty. Kalin turned. The captain had found another stack of files. Not about nobles. About the royal family. Kalin's travel schedules. The children's sleeping patterns. The days he visited his sons. The days he did not. Even the times Alora had entered the quiet wing since arriving. Someone had been recording everything. Every habit. Every weakness. Every absence. Alora's unease deepened. This isn't spying for information. Kalin looked at her. No. It's learning where to press. Lysa nodded. Severin does not need people to obey him forever. Only at the right moment, Colin said. A faint metallic sound interrupted them. One clear bell. Tiny. Almost delicate. Lysa froze. What was that? Alora looked toward the back wall. A thin wire trembled beside the shelf. Kalin crossed the room and followed it into the stone. His face changed. Alarm. Lysa swore under her breath. He knows the room was opened. Kalin immediately turned toward the corridor. Seal the palace. No. Alora's voice stopped him. He faced her. This time the softness vanished. Alora, if you seal everything, Severin knows you're afraid. He already knows we found this. Yes. She stepped closer. Then let him think finding it was all you have. Kalin studied her. What would you do? Alora glanced at the ledgers. Then smiled. Not sweetly. Colleen recognized that expression now. It usually meant trouble. I'd invite him to dinner. Lysa stared at her. Colleen stared longer. You want me to have dinner with the man who has been cataloging my children's fear? Yes. Why? Alora looked toward the hidden room. Because men like Severin spend years learning what everyone else will do. Her eyes returned to Kalin. So let's do something he didn't predict. A slow smile appeared on the Alpha King's face. For the first time, Alora realized she might enjoy being dangerous with him. And that was an entirely different problem. Lord Severin Mar arrived exactly at 7. Not early. Not late. Exactly 7. Alora disliked that immediately. Men who arrived exactly on time either respected schedules very deeply or believed the world should move according to them. Severin looked like the second kind. He entered the private dining chamber wearing dark gray instead of inner watch black. His silver hair was neatly tied at the nape of his neck. No sword hung at his side. That somehow made him more dangerous. He bowed to Kalin. Your Majesty. Then his eyes moved to Alora. Miss Finch. No contempt. No surprise. No insult about her bakery. Just perfect politeness. Alora trusted him even less. Kalin stood beside the long table. You know her. I make it my responsibility to know anyone who enters the royal household. Alora smiled. That sounds exhausting. Severin looked at her. I rarely find information exhausting. I was referring to people. For 1 second, Kalin's mouth nearly betrayed him. Severin noticed. Of course, he noticed. That was what men like him did. Dinner began quietly. Too quietly. Roasted venison. Root vegetables. Fresh bread. Alora had been given a place at Colin's right. She had protested. Kalin had ignored her. Now she understood why. Severin kept looking at the distance between them. Not obviously. Never obviously. But he saw everything. You returned to the palace quickly, Miss Finch, Severin said. I was invited. By the king. Yes. Unusual. Alora reached for bread. So is finding 3 royal princes stealing pies. Kalin took a drink to hide what might have been amusement. Severin folded his hands. You were dismissed from royal service once. There it was. Not an attack. A needle. Alora felt Callan go still beside her. She answered first. I was. For theft. For taking food that was going to be burned. Rules become meaningless if everyone decides which ones deserve obedience. Alora looked at him. That sounds very convenient for the person writing the rules. Silence. Colin set his cup down. Severin turned toward him. Your Majesty, I mean no offense. I merely question whether someone with Miss Finch's history should remain so close to the heirs. Kalen's expression did not change. Do you believe hungry children should eat burnt bread? Severin paused. Only once. It was tiny. Alora sighed. So did Colin. Severin changed direction. I believe sentiment makes poor policy. Callan leaned back. And fear? Severin's eyes cooled. Fear is useful. There. Not confession. But truth. The room seemed smaller. Alora reached for her water. Her fingers brushed Callan's. Neither moved away immediately. It lasted one heartbeat. Maybe two. Then she pulled back. Severin saw that too. Wonderful. Alora suddenly wished he were less observant. Across the table, Severin spoke softly. Attachment creates vulnerability. Callan's gaze sharpened. Alora knew exactly what he meant. So did Callan. Before either responded, footsteps sounded behind the side door. Captain Lysa entered. My king. Severin turned. A little too quickly. Cully noticed. What is it? Lysa hesitated. It was part of the plan. The princes were supposed to remain safely in the adjoining nursery chamber with two guards Callan trusted completely. Alora knew that. Still, her chest tightened. Emmett became frightened, Lysa said. Callan stood immediately. Severin watched him. Sit, Ayora murmured. Callan looked at her. They are safe. His jaw tightened. She lowered her voice. Trust Lysa. That was harder for him than charging into battle. But he sat. Severin smiled faintly. A remarkable change. Callan looked at him. What is? You taking instructions. Alora nearly choked on her water. Callan did not look at her. She rarely leaves much choice. That is absolutely untrue. You ordered me to sit on a nursery floor. You survived. Severin watched them both. Something calculating passed through his eyes. Then, a metal tray crashed in the adjoining room. The sound was sharp. Silver against stone. A frightened cry followed. Alden. Alora stood. This time Callan did too. The side door opened. Alden rushed into the dining chamber in wolf form. Milo followed. Emmett was behind them with Lysa. Severin's composure shifted for the first time. Only slightly. Alden saw him. Stopped. Severin raised one hand. 2 fingers. The same gesture. Alden's body locked. Milo crouched. Emmett whimpered. Everything became still. Severin lowered his hand. Too lot. Callan had seen it. Alora had seen it. Lysa had seen it. Alden stood trembling in the center of the room. Callan did not move toward him. He did not command. He simply said, You are safe. Alden's eyes shifted toward his father. His muscles slowly relaxed. Then he walked past Severin. Straight to Callan. The king rested one hand against the pup's neck. Only after Alden allowed it. Severin watched. Callan looked at him. His voice was quiet. Thank you. Severin's face remained unreadable. For what? Cullen's thumb moved gently through Alden's fur. For finally doing it where I could see. Silence. Then, Severin smiled. Not warmly. Not nervously. Almost sadly. You still misunderstand the shape of this kingdom. Callan's eyes hardened. Do I? Severin looked toward the children. Then toward the hidden corridors beyond the dining hall. You think I am the man giving the orders. He stood. Lysa's hand moved toward her sword. Severin did not run. He simply looked at Cullen. Your Majesty, men like me do not create systems this old. Callan went still. Severin's next words fell softly. We inherit them. No one moved for several seconds. Severin stood at the end of the dining table as though he had not just cracked open the floor beneath the entire kingdom. Cullen's hand remained on Alden's neck. The black pup leaned into him. Not much. Just enough for Alora to notice. Severin noticed too. Of course he did. You said you inherited it, Kalen said. Severin's expression stayed calm. I did. From whom? A faint smile touched the older man's mouth. That is the wrong question. Kalen's eyes darkened. Alora already knew that look. The king was running out of patience. She also knew patience had become the one weapon Severin did not know how to defend against. So, she reached for the bread. Kalen looked at her. She tore off a piece. Chewed. Swallowed. Then whispered. Don't give him the dramatic moment. Cullen stared. Severin stared. Lysa looked away very quickly. Alora lifted one shoulder. He seems to be enjoying himself. For one impossible second, Milo giggled. The sound broke something in the room. Not the danger. The control. Severin's eyes narrowed slightly. Kalen understood. He sat back down. You were saying? For the first time, Severin looked irritated. It made Alora like bread even more. The inner watch existed before your reign, Severin said. I know. Before your father's final years. Kalen's expression shifted. How far back? Severin looked toward the old stone walls. After the attempt on your grandfather's life. Captain Lysa frowned. The winter knife conspiracy. Severin nodded. 3 nobles entered the palace with legitimate invitations. 2 servants opened doors for them. 1 guard ignored a changed shift. Alora listened. This part mattered. Not because it excused Severin. Because old fears often built very durable cages. Your family responded by creating a private network, Severin continued. People who tracked access, habits, vulnerabilities. Who spoke to whom? Which servants could be bribed? Cullen's jaw tightened. Protection. At first. And later? Severin looked at him. Protection always becomes something else when no one asks who is being protected from whom. Alora felt that sentence settle heavily. Colleen did too. He stood slowly. My father knew? He expanded it. Kalen's face went pale beneath the anger. Severin continued. He approved the hidden rooms. The listening corridors. The private guard marks. The black thread. Yes. Lysa's voice sharpened. And the children? Severin finally looked away. That was the first real crack. The children came later. Kalen stepped closer. Under you. Yes. No denial. No excuse. Alora hated him for that more than she expected. Not because he lied. Because he had found a way to make cruelty sound administrative. Kalen's voice dropped. You frightened children to control their parents. I used existing leverage. Alden growled. Severin glanced toward him. Alora stood. No. Everyone looked at her. She stepped between Severin's gaze and the pups. You do not get to call children leverage. Severin's expression cooled. Miss Finch. They have names. Silence. All of them. Her voice stayed soft. That made it stronger. You built files about who they loved, what frightened them, where they slept. She pointed toward Alden. He is not leverage. Toward Milo. He is not an entry in a ledger. Then Emmett. And he is definitely not a useful reaction. Emmett quietly moved behind her skirt. Alora glanced down. Although his timing remains questionable. Milo snorted. Even Lysa's mouth twitched. Cullen looked at Alora. There was something in his eyes now that had nothing to do with politics. Something warmer. Deeper. More dangerous. Pride. And maybe something else. Alora looked away first. Again. This was becoming a pattern she did not appreciate. Severin exhaled. You believe kindness can dismantle a kingdom's security? No. Alora said. I believe fear already did. Colleen turned toward Severin. Why did you continue it? Severin looked directly at him. Because it worked. That answer carried no shame. Your father trusted the system. You inherited it. You signed every budget placed before you. Colleen froze. Alora's stomach tightened. Severin stepped closer. You ask who built this? His voice remained soft. You did not build it, but you fed it. The words landed. Kalen's eyes shifted, not toward Severin, toward the floor, toward the years of reports, orders, signatures, absence. For the first time, Alora understood the true shape of his guilt. He had not known, but he had also not looked. Severin saw it, pressed harder. You fought wars while men like me maintained your kingdom. Kalen slowly raised his head, and I mistook maintenance for loyalty. Severin's smile disappeared. Good. Kalen stepped closer. That ends tonight. A bell rang. Once. Then twice. Then 3 times. Lysa went white. Severin closed his eyes briefly. Not relief. Preparation. Kalen turned. What is that? Lysa headed to the corridor. Another bell answered from the royal wing. She came back fast. Emergency air protocol. Alora's heart dropped. Kalen was already moving. Quiet wing. They ran. No one spoke. Alora's breath burned by the time they reached the nursery. The door stood open. The fire still burned. 3 small beds. Empty. Kalen stopped so suddenly Alora nearly struck his back. No. His voice broke. Not the king. The father. Alden. Nothing. Emmett. Silence. Then Alora saw it. A piece of bread on the floor. Outside the door. Another farther down the corridor. Then another. Kalen stared. Alora crouched. Touched the crumbs. Still soft. Fresh. Her fear changed shape. He wasn't dragged. Kalen looked at her. How do you know? She stood. Because she finally understood Alden's language. He's testing the road again. Another crumb waited near the eastern stairs. Then one more, leading toward the old flower passage. Kalen's face hardened. Alora grabbed his sleeve before he could run. Slow. My sons are gone. I know. His eyes burned. She did not let go. He left this for you. That stopped him. Alora pointed at the bread trail. He trusts you to follow now. Kalen looked toward the passage. Then back at her. For one quiet second. Fear and hope stood together between them. His hand closed around hers. Not romantic. Not entirely. But neither of them pulled away. Then Alden's distant howl echoed from somewhere beyond the eastern wall. And Kalen ran toward it. The eastern flower passage smelled of dust, old grain, and cold stone. Kalen moved first. Too fast. Alora caught his sleeve for the second time that night. Slow. His head snapped toward her. My sons are somewhere ahead. I know. Then let go. No. Captain Lysa stopped behind them. Even Garen, following several steps back, looked surprised. Alora lowered her voice. Alden left bread. Kalen's chest rose sharply. He left a trail. Yes. He wants us to find him. Yes. Then why are we walking? Because he is testing the road. That stopped him. Alora pointed toward the floor. The crumbs were not scattered randomly. One appeared before every turn. Another rested beneath a broken lantern. At the next intersection, Alden had scratched 3 lines into the dust. He's telling us where he went, Alora said. Kalen looked at the marks. Then at her. And maybe whether we understand. His anger did not disappear. But it became quieter. More useful. They moved on. The passage narrowed until Kalen's shoulders nearly brushed both walls. Ahead, a faint sound drifted through the darkness. Emmett crying. Kalen's hand closed into a fist. Alora moved closer without thinking. Their shoulders touched. For 1 second, his fingers found hers. Just once. A quiet squeeze. Then he let go. No promises. No words. Only gratitude. Alora hated how much that tiny gesture mattered. They reached the end of the passage. A cracked wooden door stood open. Beyond it lay the old delivery court. Moonlight spilled across abandoned wagons and broken stone troughs. 12 inner watch guards formed a loose circle. Milo stood near the wall. Emmett clung to Alden. And Alden stood in front of both brothers. Severin was there. Not holding them. Not threatening them. That made everything worse. One guard stepped forward. Your Majesty, remain where you are. Kaelin's eyes burned gold. Lysa reached for her sword. Alora whispered, "Wait." Kaelin looked at her as though patience had finally become an unreasonable personal attack. Still, he waited. The guard continued. The heirs have been removed under Emergency Protection Authority. The king's judgment has been compromised. By whom? Kaelin asked. The guard hesitated. His eyes moved toward Alora. There it was. Severin had prepared the story. The low-born baker. The convicted thief. The outsider who had gained access to the royal heirs. Alora almost admired the simplicity. Almost. Severin spoke calmly. Your Majesty has abandoned established protocols. He has dismissed medical guidance. Allowed an unvetted civilian unrestricted contact with the heirs. Alora raised a hand. Restricted contact. Everyone looked at her. She shrugged. They still bite. Milo made a tiny choking sound that might have been laughter. Severin's jaw tightened. Good. Alora had learned something useful about him. He disliked being made ridiculous. Kaelin noticed, too. His mouth almost curved. Then the nearest guard looked toward Alden. Come. Alden did not move. The guard raised 2 fingers. Alden's body stiffened. Colleen took 1 step. Alora touched his arm. Not yet. The guard repeated. Come. Alden looked at Severin. Then at the guards. Then toward his father. Kaelin's entire body seemed to ache with the need to command. To pull. To demand. Alora watched him fight himself. Finally, he opened his hands. That was all. No alpha voice. No royal order. No come to me. Just open hands. Alden stared. The court became silent. Even Severin stopped breathing. Milo looked at his brother. Emmett sniffed against Alden's side. Alden moved. But not toward Kaelin. He turned first to Milo. Pressed his nose against his brother's shoulder. Milo walked across the courtyard. 1 guard reached for him. Lysa's sword cleared its sheath. The man stopped. Milo reached Kaelin. Kaelin did not grab him. He waited until Milo pressed against his leg. Then Alden nudged Emmett forward. The youngest pup hesitated. Alora crouched. Not beside Kaelin. A few feet away. You can choose. Emmett looked at her. Then at his father. He ran. Colin caught him only when the child jumped into his arms. That left Alden alone. Severin's voice hardened. You understand what happens if you cross that line, boy. Alora felt something cold move through her. There it was. Not a threat of violence. Something older. Conditioning. Alden lowered his head. Colin did not move. His arms remained open. You do not have to prove anything to me. Alden's ears lifted. Kaelin swallowed. You never did. The black pup took 1 step. Then another. Severin raised his hand. 2 fingers. Alden flinched. Stopped. Kaelin's face broke. But he did not command. He simply waited. Alden looked at the man who had trained fear into his bones. Then at the father who had finally learned not to use it. And chose. He ran. Straight into Kaelin. The king dropped to 1 knee. Alden pressed against his chest. Kaelin wrapped 1 arm around him. Carefully. Asking even now. Alden did not pull away. 1 inner watch guard lowered his sword. Then another. Severin stared at them. Hold formation. No one moved. Hold formation. Still nothing. Lysa stepped forward. It's over. Severin looked at Alora. His face had finally lost its calm. All this because of a baker. Alora shook her head. No. She looked at Alden. At Milo. At Emmett. Then at Callan, kneeling in the dirt with all 3 sons pressed around him. Because, eventually, someone listened. Lysa placed Severin under arrest. As the guards led him away, Kaelin looked toward Alora. His eyes stayed on her. Longer than necessary. Warmer than before. She suddenly became very interested in a broken wagon wheel. Milo noticed. Naturally. He whispered something to Alden. Both pups looked at her. Then at their father. Alora narrowed her eyes. Whatever you are planning, don't. Milo wagged his tail. Kaelin almost smiled. Much later, when they returned to the quiet wing, Kalen did not enter. He stopped beside the two iron locks outside the nursery door, then held out one hand. Luza. She placed a hammer in it. Alora stared. What are you doing? Kalen looked at the locks, then at his sons. His voice was quiet. Something I should have done a long time ago. He raised the hammer and struck the first lock. The first iron lock broke on the third strike. The sound rang through the quiet wing. Sharp. Final. Alden flinched at first. Kalen stopped immediately. The hammer lowered. He looked at his son. Not at the broken metal. At Alden. Too loud. Alden watched him for a moment, then shook his head. Kalen waited another second anyway. Only after Alden stayed where he was did he raise the hammer again. The second lock took longer. Milo sat beside Alora with both hands over his ears. This is very dramatic. Alora nodded. Kings enjoy symbolism. Kalen looked over his shoulder. I can hear you. That was part of the symbolism. Milo grinned. Even Captain Lysa smiled. The final strike shattered the old hinge. The lock hit the floor. No one spoke. Kalen set the hammer down. Then he picked up the broken iron and held it toward Alden. The black pup approached carefully. For months, that lock had decided when he slept, when he ate, when he could leave, when someone else could enter. Alden sniffed at it, then pushed it away with one paw. Milo immediately kicked it toward the fireplace. Emmett laughed. Alora covered her mouth. Perhaps we should not teach the princes to throw evidence into fires. Milo looked offended. It was ugly. Kalen exhaled through his nose. That is not a legal defense. It should be. Alora glanced at Cullen. I agree with him. Of course you do. Their eyes met. There it was again. That quiet warmth. Not urgent. Not declared. Just present. And somehow more dangerous because of that. The days that followed were not simple. Severin Mar was tried before the full council. The records from the hidden room were opened. Families learned how their fears had been tracked. Parents learned why their children had come home changed. Some guards had obeyed cruel orders knowingly. Others had believed they were protecting the crown. Kalen refused to punish them all the same. Fear does not erase responsibility, he said. But responsibility still has degrees. Auric Dane lost his position. He confessed publicly to altering reports and administering silver mixtures he knew were harmful. He did not ask forgiveness. That mattered to Alora. Garen Vale remained in the palace temporarily. Not restored. Not praised. He spent his days helping Lysa identify compromised routes and missing servants. He also apologized to Alden. Not as counselor to Prince. As one frightened adult to one frightened child. Alden did not answer. Garen accepted that. Some things could not be repaired because someone finally found the correct words. They required time. Kalen understood that now. So did Alora. The quiet wing changed first. The curtains were removed. The windows opened. Fresh air entered. The three beds were pushed closer together. Emmett immediately abandoned his own and climbed into Milo's. Milo complained for 11 seconds. Then made room. Alden slept beside the door for 3 more nights. On the 4th, he moved halfway toward his bed. On the 5th, he slept there. Kalen noticed. He said nothing. That was another thing he had learned. Not every victory needed witnesses. Alora returned to the bakery 1 week later. She told herself she was relieved. She told herself the palace had been exhausting. She told herself she did not miss the sound of 3 small sets of feet following her everywhere. All 3 statements were true. Unfortunately, there was a 4th truth. She missed Kalen. That one annoyed her. She found herself looking toward the orchard road whenever horses passed. Once, she burned an entire tray of hand pies because a man in a black cloak walked past the window. He was 70, and missing most of his hair. Alora stared at the ruined pies. This is humiliating. The next morning, Captain Lysa entered the bakery. Alora's heart betrayed her immediately, then fell again. Lysa noticed. Of course she did. He is alive. I did not ask. No. Lysa placed a royal payment purse on the counter. For damages. Alora opened it. Too much money. This could buy the entire bakery. He guessed. He is terrible at ordinary prices. He is a king. That is not an excuse. Lysa smiled, then looked toward the door. He also sent guards. Alora narrowed her eyes. I told him no uniforms. They are not in uniform. 3 enormous royal soldiers entered wearing plain brown coats. One studied the bread. Another looked terrified. The third whispered, "Which one are we supposed to buy?" Alora closed her eyes. Wonderful. Lysa left laughing. That evening, Callan finally came himself. No procession. No crown. No armor. Just a dark coat and exhaustion beneath his eyes. Alora saw him through the window before he entered. Her heart did something deeply unhelpful. She pretended to rearrange muffins. He stepped inside. You moved those 3 times. She looked up. You were watching? For approximately 30 seconds. That is worse. Callan smiled. Then his expression softened. I wanted to see you. Alora's hand stopped. The bakery suddenly felt much smaller. That is dangerously direct. I have been told I waste time. By whom? You. Oh. He stepped closer. Not too close. Still careful. Still asking without asking. The boys miss you. Alora looked down. Only the boys? A pause. She immediately regretted the question. Colleen's eyes warmed. No. Her face heated. That answer was unnecessary. I thought it was efficient. Kings are apparently terrible at subtlety. I am improving. She looked at him. Slowly. A quiet laugh passed between them. Then the bakery door burst open. 3 wolf pups tumbled inside. Milo carried a pie. Alden carried nothing. Emmett carried half a ribbon and looked extremely proud of it. Alora stared. You stole that. Milo froze. Callan reached into his coat and placed coins on the counter. They are reforming. Alora looked at the half-eaten pie. Very slowly. Emmett climbed into her arms. Alden stood beside Callan. Not behind him. Beside him. Callan rested one hand gently on his son's shoulder. Alden did not move away. Alora saw it. So did Callan. Neither spoke. They did not need to. The kingdom had once believed strength meant locked doors, perfect obedience, and silence. It had been wrong. Trust had returned through smaller things. An open door. A shared meal. A father waiting instead of commanding. A woman who stayed when frightened children expected everyone else to leave. Callan looked at Alora across the warm bakery light. No declaration. No promise. Not yet. Just something steady growing between them. Something patient. Something chosen. And for the first time in a very long while, no one in Black Pine needed a lock to feel safe. So, this is where Alora and Cullen's story finally grows quiet. And if you're still here with me after everything they went through, thank you. Because beneath the wolves, the palace, and the betrayal, this was really a story about something very human. Being misunderstood. Being hurt by people you trusted. Feeling the pain without begging anyone to believe your worth. Alora never needed to shout to prove herself. She kept her dignity, stayed kind without becoming weak, and when the world tried to define her by an old mistake, she quietly chose herself again. Cullen had a different lesson to learn. You cannot control every betrayal. You cannot force trust back into a wounded heart. You can only control what you do next. Listen better. Hold your anger a little longer. Choose your people more carefully. And when someone shows you who they are, maybe don't wait for 3 wolf pups and a stolen pie to confirm it. If this story reminded you that dignity can survive even after trust is broken, leave the word dignity in the comments. And if you enjoyed spending this time with us, a like, share, or subscription would mean a lot. Thank you for staying with Alpha Wolf Saga.